Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome today again we have a session again with Sheikh Khaled Jamil, live from Najaf. And today we're going to talk about the birthday of Imam we have a session again with Sheikh Khaled Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam, since his birth anniversary is coming up on Monday. So we're dedicating this session tonight to him and his life. And Sheikh Khaled will, give us some knowledge about his life and what he's learned. And Jazakallah, Sheikh, you can start us off with this.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على نبينا محمد الصادق الأمين وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أفضل ما صليت وسلمت وباركت على أحد من أنبيائك أجمعين. In the name of God, the merciful, the beneficent, all prayer and praise is due to the Prophet Muhammad and his holy household. When we are commemorating the Ahlul Bayt, Sayyidina, again, Sayyidina, this is a dialogue, so interrupt and ask questions at any moment.
No, of course.
Barakallah fikum. And today we're going to sort of break our mold that we're used to. Today we're not going to focus on ideology. Today we're going to focus on the Imam himself, on our Imam al-Jawad. And the reason that I decided to take this route is because, in all honesty, there is a lacking with the knowledge that we have of the Ahlul Bayt, specifically the final four of our Imams. The final four of our Imams. Who are the final four? Muhammad al-Jawad, Ali al-Taqi, al-Hasan al-Askari, wal-Hujjat al-Mahdi, ajallallah ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif. These Imams, we are lacking. We find that a lot of our brothers and sisters are lacking information when it comes to these Imams.
Why do you think that is?
In all honesty, I think it's more than one thing, Sayyidina. Number one is their life was under a lot of stress. The Abbasids in their time put a lot of focus on the Imams, especially in that time. That's number one. The second point is that the Imams, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'een, all of them had different roles. In fact, one of our scholars, he says that we can take the 12 Imams and we can divide them into three roles. The first four, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Al-Hasan alayhi salam, Al-Hussein alayhi salam, and Zayn al-Abidin, their job, their role was to protect Islam, to protect it from deviation, to protect it from misinformation, to protect it from loss. Hence, Fatima al-Zahra, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha, she says, وَجَعَلَ اللَّهِ إِمَامَتَنَا أَمَانًا مِنَ الْفُرْقَةِ. And Allah has made our imamah as a safeguard from division. That is the first four. The second four, who are Muhammad al-Baqir, Ja'far al-Sadiq, Musa al-Kadhim, and Ali al-Rida, alayhim salatu wassalam, their role was to spread the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt. That's why you see most of our ahadith come from these four Imams. Imam al-Baqir, alayhi salam, he's known as Baqir. Sayyidina, do you know what the word Baqir means?
The one who splits knowledge in half or divides them.
Actually, Baqara means that he dives in and takes it from its intestines, from its origins, from its, Baqara, when we say Baqara, something means that he dove into its center and brought it out into the light. So it's not that he just simply split it, it's that he dove into it and brought it out. Not only that, we say he is Baqiru ilm al-Nabiyyin. When you read Ziyarat Warith, or I can't recall which ziyarah exactly, we say Assalamu alayka, Assalamu ala Muhammad al-Baqir or Baqiru ilm al-Nabiyyin. He is the one that brought to the light, that brought from the depth, from the darkness, the knowledge of the prophets. Ilm al-Nabiyyin, all of the prophets. Then we have an Imam al-Kadhim and an Imam al-Rida and an Imam, we forgot, and I forgot to mention, al-Imam al-Sadiq, Ja'far al-Sadiq. He is the one that we are referred to. Our school of thought goes to him. We are called Ja'fari. Ja'fari because we go to him. He had the biggest school in Islam. All of the scholars whether Shi'i, whether Sunni, wherever you have studied either directly or indirectly in the schools of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. In fact, in Islam, and I would dare say in the world, he is the first individual to come up with the concept of specializations. You know, he would have specific students that would study a specific knowledge. For example, Jabir, Jabir ibn Hayyan, whom we get the algebra from. He was a student of Imam al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa alayhi. The Imam requested that he specify in math. So a lot of specifications came from that time. Imam
Wow.
al-Rida, salawatullahi wa alayhi, most of translations and interpretations from the West were done during the time of Imam al-Rida, during the time of Al-Ma'mun al-Abbasi, when Imam al-Rida was his second in command, when he was the crown prince. The Imam encouraged it to the point where they say that Al-Ma'mun used to give people the book's weight in gold if they would translate it. By
Wow.
the way, just a side note here, this is why most of the information we have about the Greco-Roman times came from people such as Plato, whom we refer to as Aflaton, Socrates, Aristotle, all of these great philosophers and thinkers and mathematicians and great thinkers came from the Arabic world, from the Muslim world specifically, because at the time when the church was going through its dark ages, when Europe was going through the dark ages, and they were burning any book that did not agree with them, and they were burning people that did not agree with them, such as Giordano Bruno, a lot of people. Nonetheless, the Muslims took those books. They would hoard these books. They would literally take these books, translate them into Arabic, just to make a buck.
Wow.
Yeah. So the role of the second four, of the mid four, let's say, their job was to spread the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt, the knowledge of Islam. And then comes the role of the last three, or sorry, the third class, or the third four, so to speak. The last four, their role was to prepare the ummah for the ghaiba of Imam al-Mahdi, ajalallah farajah, for the ghaiba of our Maulana, of our Imam al-Zaman. And they began this step by step. So it wasn't a shock to the Islamic system. It wasn't a
Yeah.
shock to the Islamic nation, so to speak. And inshallah, we'll touch upon that as we go through the life of Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. Do you have anything, or should we proceed?
No, I think it's really important. First thing to note is that, I would like to say, especially for the youth that are listening, Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam is one of the best examples for the youth, because, he's someone who, he was the first Imam who started at the young age of 8. And he died at the age of 25. So for all of his imamat and his whole life and everything you're about to hear, you have to note that this is from his age 8 to age 25. So, understand, everything the Sheikh's about to tell you right now has happened between just those years, the years of our youth. So he's definitely an example to us, so definitely enlighten us, Sheikh.
Absolutely. We'll start with the first and foremost, the Imam al-Rida, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, he says, هذا المولود, referring to Imam al-Jawad, this newborn, الذي لم يولد مولودا أعظم منه أو أعظم بركة على شيعتنا منه. The Imam says that this mawlud, this newborn that I have been blessed with, this newborn, Ali Muhammad al-Jawad, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, there is no other newborn who holds a grander status than he upon our Shia. Now, this is a very bold claim, Sayyid. This is a very, very bold claim. And the reason the Imam claimed this is because we have to realize Imam al-Rida, salawatullahi wa alayhi, he was in his late 40s when Imam al-Jawad came. He was an old man when he had Imam al-Jawad. I mean, not old by that time standard, not by our standards today. But by that time, when people were getting married at the age of, 11, 12, 13,
Yeah.
females were getting married at the age of 9, 10, 11, and that's, by the way, just a little side note. For those that want to say, oh, the Arabs, allow the marriage of young women. That's not the case. The case is in that time, that was the age at when women got married. It was not abnormal. It was extremely normal for a woman to get married, the second that she becomes able to conceive a child. I don't want to elaborate any more onto that. The second that she's able to conceive a child, she would get married. So
Yeah, but
and that was the norm. That wasn't just the norm in Arabia. That was the norm across the board. And
exactly.
it's only been in the past couple of hundred years that has changed.
And also the thing is to note that the lifespan at that age was also not that long. People were dying in their 40s. By 30,
Less than that.
40.
Less than that. The average lifespan was around 34 to 36.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that at that time, if you had a toothache, you either got
No
it pulled with the pliers, if they had pliers.
Yeah.
And by the way, when people see the concept of what do you call them? The barber dentist thing, that was pretty recent in history. We're talking about older than that. We're talking about 1,200 years ago. 1,200 years ago, the concept of germs and germicide and germaphobes and those people didn't exist. We didn't have germaphobes. We didn't have the concept of germs. We had, this is what you had, this is what you lived with. That's why when they got sick, everybody got sick. I mean, we're dealing with Corona now. One person gets sick, everybody gets sick. But at that time, there was no concept of sanitization, of cleanliness, what have you. So people would die at a very young age. If you had a toothache, you could die from it. A small cut, you could die from. So people didn't live that long. So it makes sense for them to get married that young. Nonetheless, that's we're kind of veering off topic and ranting on here. The Imam was born, Imam Jawad was born to Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida when the Imam was in his 40s. Therefore, before his birth, people started second guessing the Imam. People started doubting the Imam. When the Imam came, he came as a sort of affirmation, of confirmation to the Imam. And we see that over and over with the Imam. The Imam would tell his Shia, don't be worried, he will come, he will be here. But as was with most things, people have doubts. People doubt. That's what people do, and that's just the natural state of things. So the Imam was born, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. He was born in the year 195 Hijri, which makes it about 700 something. I don't remember the exact timeline in the AD in the Gregorian calendar. However, he was born 195 Hijri. The Imam, when he became the Imam, when Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida died and Al-Jawad became the Imam, it was in the year 203. So Sayyidina, if you take 195 and 203, how many years is that?
8 years old.
That's 8 years old. At 8 years old, it was unprecedented. No other Imam had become an Imam at that age. No other Imam. He was the first Imam to become an Imam at the age of 8. Salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. And hence people had doubts. A lot of people had doubts. A lot of people second guessed the Imam. That's why we see that there's a lot of narrations. Unfortunately, I forgot to write it down. A lot of narrations where the people would question, who was the Imam? Could it be this young boy? Could it be this young lad at the age of 8? So
it's
the
funny.
Imam had to prove himself. Sorry, go ahead.
I said what's funny is that they can question the Imam, but when they read the Quran, they see Nabi Isa was speaking from his child, as a child, as a little baby, so it's just, they read the Quran, but it just slips their mind.
Well, to be frank, Sayyidina, people first have very short-term memory. Adding to the very short-term memory, we have very selective memory. Excuse me. We have selective memory. We only want to remember what we enjoy, what we like, what benefits us, and things that don't benefit us, we usually put aside, we brush off. Nonetheless, at the age, the Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, passed away in the year 203 Hijri. The Imam salawatullahi wasalamuhu alayhi, Imam al-Jawad, died at the year of 220 Hijri. Sayyidina, you with me? 220 Hijri, making him 25 years old. 25 years old. Now, we're not going to go through all of his life because we don't have enough time. So what we'll do is we'll take snippets of his life, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. First and foremost, we need to realize that the Imam lived during the time of the Abbasi Empire. Okay? I personally don't call it Khilafah because Khilafah alludes to the concept that they are, ruling on behalf of Islam or on behalf of the Prophet, and that is not the case. I call it empire because they were emperors by all intents and purposes. The Imam salawatullahi wasalamu alayhi, for 15 years, he lived under the Khilafah of Al-Ma'mun, the son of Harun al-Rashid. If you don't mind, Sayyidina, I would like to elaborate a bit upon these two concepts, if that's okay with you.
No, for sure. Yeah, I think it's very important to understand like the Abbasid side as well, to understand the situation at that time.
Now, Sayyidina, to be frank, the reason it's so important, we have the first four Khulafa. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. After Amir al-Mu'mineen came Imam al-Hasan for 6 months. Then, after he was poisoned, the dynasties began, the Islamic dynasty. Okay? We need to put some bold points first and foremost. The reason we call them dynasties, because they were not Islamic ruled. What I mean by that is, yes, they pretend to be Islamic ruled. They put on the Islamic faith or face, let's say, but their jurisprudence was a mix between Islam and non-Islam, was a mix between their opinions and other opinions. Hence, you see, they began spreading Islam by the sword. You know, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi and then his Ahlul Bayt could have done that should they wanted to, but they didn't. You know, because Islam is not a religion to be spread by the sword. Islam allows you to carry your sword in defense, not in attack. And that's something we need to make clear. Therefore, the Islamic empires that came after, the Islamic dynasties or the Arab dynasties that came after, we cannot contribute them to be Islamic. They had as an Islamic sprinkle, so to speak. You know when you sprinkle a little bit of salt on your steak, they sprinkled a little bit of Islamic knowledge onto their steak. Nonetheless, it's a part of history that we have to deal with, but something that we have to make clear. The Umayyad dynasty, when they came into power, they needed to legitimize their place. The way they legitimized their place is by saying Muawiyah was the rightful heir. Why? Because of Shura, because of Ijma'. We're not going to go into that. But Muawiyah says Ali didn't have Ijma' and I have Ijma'. Okay, Ijma' meaning the collective body of the collective Muslim nation agreed upon his rule. Bani Umayyah carried that through. However, they suppressed anybody who didn't agree with that. And they literally began with the Ahlul Bayt. Their suppression started with the Ahlul Bayt. Then came the Abbasi dynasty. The Abbasids trace their lineage back to Al-Abbas ibn Abd al-Muttalib, the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad. The Prophet is Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abd al-Muttalib. The Abbasids trace their lineage to Al-Abbas ibn Abd al-Muttalib, the brother of Abdullah, the father of the Prophet.
So they're basically cousins of the Imams.
They are cousins. They are cousins. By all intents and purposes, they are cousins. Now, the Abbasids, when they came into power, their claim to fame was what? Their claim to fame was that we are seeking retribution for the Ahlul Bayt, revenge for the Ahlul Bayt. We are seeking the rightful path to the Khilafah of the Prophet Muhammad. Is that clear?
Yeah.
However, when they got the power, what did they do?
They went
They
against fate.
they took it for themselves. You know, I'm pretty sure you've seen I've seen commercials of poker players where they go all and they take everything for themselves. That's literally what the Abbasis did. Is they literally took all for themselves, and their first move was what was to legitimize their stay. How did they legitimize their stay, Sayyidina? By killing off the family of Ahlul Bayt. You know, it, 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 it's it, it makes you want to laugh, but at the same time, it makes you want to cry. Everybody that wants, that wants ruling goes through the blood of Ahlul Bayt, salawatullahi wa salam. The reason that I say it makes you want to laugh, because it's nearly comical. It is nearly comical at how predictable they are. At the same time, it makes you want to cry because the Ahlul Bayt were not out there asking for rule. The Ahlul Bayt were not out there chasing it. The Ahlul Bayt were doing what they needed to do. They were spreading Islam. They were protecting Islam. However, anybody that came into power did one thing: murder and kill off any descendants of Ali ibn Abi Talib and Sayyidah Fatima. Why? Because they are the legitimate path to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala sallallahu alaihi wa alihi. Now, Harun al-Rashid. Harun al-Rashid was one of the Abbasi Khalifas. Harun al-Rashid is the one who killed Imam Musa al-Kadhim salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. When he died, he had three sons. Those three sons all wanted power. The first one, his eldest son, was named by Al-Ma'mun. His second son was named Al-Amin, and his third son was named Al-Mu'tasim. Al-Mu'tasim took a back. What you ended up having is Al-Ma'mun and Al-Amin going head to head for power, struggling for power, killing each other for power. This was during the time of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. When Al-Ma'mun gained power by killing his brother and by hanging his brother at the gate of the castle for 3 days. Nonetheless, that was their method. When he gained power, he had to deal with the rebels that were still with Al-Amin. And he had to deal with the Shia who were who were delegitimizing his claim to the throne. Now, the problem with the Shia is that they were fearless fighters. No different from Al-Hashd today. With one word, 4 million individuals ran out. Same thing with back then. The concept of death to them was a welcomed concept. The concept of martyrdom to them was a welcomed concept. So what he devised a plan of silencing the Shia by bringing Imam Ali ibn Musa salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi into the castle. Now, we all know the story, and this is not a lecture about Imam al-Rida. Inshallah, when we have a lecture about Imam al-Rida, we'll go into details. Nonetheless, Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida became the crowned prince for the Ma'mun under conditions that he would not involve himself in any political association at all, or anything that has to do with politics. He was literally there just a representation. After poisoning Imam al-Rida, Al-Ma'mun put on the face of the love of Ahlul Bayt in order to silence the Shia on one end, and in order to silence the Abbasis at the other end. Because the rest of the Abbasis had a lot of animosity towards Al-Ma'mun. Number one, Al-Ma'mun was the son of a servant. He was not the son of a free woman. Al-Ma'mun was known to be conniving, was known to be clever, was known to be, as they say in Arabic, dahiya. He was very clever, but in a negative way. He would use it for his own benefits. He would not, and he was known to be a scholar. He was known to be a lover of knowledge. Nonetheless, he had to deal with all of these enemies. So he brought Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. When he brought Imam al-Rida as a way of legitimizing his throne, on the one end, he hushed the Shia, and on the other end, he hushed the Abbasis, who could no longer say anything. Um, then he poisoned the Imam. But he could not publicly denounce or announce, I should say, his displeasure for the Imam. Rather, what he ended up doing is he ended up showing the same love and the same affection to Al Imam al Jawad. When we want to look at the life of Imam al Jawad, we can divide it into three divisions. The first, during the life of his father, which was the 7 to 8 years, which we just summed up. The second is after the martyrdom of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam and during the life of al-Ma'mun, which lasted 15 years. And then the third is during the life of the Mu'tasim, or after the death of the Ma'mun, the demise of the Ma'mun, which was 2 years. When al-Ma'mun took power, when the Imam passed away, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. By the way, at that time, while al-Ma'mun, was trying to be nice, trying to show a smiley face towards the Shia or towards the Imam in public, in private, he was killing indiscriminately. Killing, when I mean indiscriminately, it got to a point where one of the Shia poets, he says, يا ليت ظلم بني مروان عاد لنا وعدل بني العباس في النار. He says, oh, how I wish that the injustice of Bani Marwan, the Umayyads, would return to us, and the justice of Bani al-Abbas would go to hell.
Wow.
So imagine Bani al-Abbas, who are supposed to be, closer to the Ahlul Bayt, in fact, were worst for the Ahlul Bayt. Now, after the passing of Imam al-Rida, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, we said Imam remained displaying his affection or his pretended affection. Not only that, he decided to marry his daughter, al-Fadl, to Imam al-Jawad, alayhi salam. Sayyidina, I'm not keeping track of time, are you?
Yeah, we got like a few minutes left. It's about 9:04 now.
Okay, so we'll try to kind of cover this quickly. When he wanted to do that, Bani al-Abbas came to him. His kin came to him and said, what are you doing? You want to marry your daughter to al-Jawad, Abu Ja'far? This is a grief mistake, because this could cause a big problem. Now, of course, al-Ma'mun, by doing this, he wants to further legitimize his state. He wants to further legitimize his throne. They say a dialogue happened on between them. We don't need to get into the dialogue due to the time restriction. However, one of the things they said was, he's too young. How old was he at that time? Approximately between 8 and 9. They said he's too young. Number one, he's too young to be married, or for you to marry him off. Second thing is, he's too young for you to shower him with this affection. Not only that, he's still a child. He doesn't have the knowledge that's necessary for you to favor him this much. You don't know what he's going to be like when he grows up. Al-Ma'mun here said to them, I know these individuals. I know the sons of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And if you think any of you could question him or has the audacity to question him, bring forth your questions and we shall present them. They agreed on a mass gathering. That mass gathering took a public mass gathering, of course. Everybody was invited. The idea was that Bani al-Abbas, their idea was to humiliate the Imam so that he is unfit to be the crown prince, unfit to be so close to the crown. Because Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida caused a lot of headaches for them. What I mean by that is, for them, caused a lot of headaches for them, because the people automatically gravitated towards the Imam. And they struggled with that. Hence the reason that they needed to get rid of him. And that's why they poisoned him.
They didn't learn his lesson.
Sorry?
I said they didn't learn their lesson. They tried the same with his son.
So they devised a plan. They went to the judge of judges. That's a term that was used back then when they call Qadi al-Qudat, meaning that he is the head judge of the state. That any affair that's too complicated, they would come to him, meaning that he is the highest religious authority in the state. Okay? So he is the grandest of the grand.
So for example, for us would be like a grand Ayatollah today or a grand mufti for those terms.
Ahsantum. But he's grander than the mufti. So he is the mufti's mufti, so to speak. Nonetheless, his name was Yahya ibn Aktham. They came to him and they said, come up with an impossible question to be answered. They say he sat for a whole week, some say 3 weeks, trying to come up with a question that he could not come up with, that was impossible for him to answer. He came up with one question. We'll get to this question. They say Al-Ma'mun made this public gathering. He brought everybody. He invited. It was a public gathering. Everybody was invited. And of course, it's a gathering held by the emperor. So you can imagine, public gathering, there's going to be a lot of grub. There's going to be all you can eat and drink, a buffet. So anybody would attend, from the beggar to the aristocrat. Al-Ma'mun had obviously a throne for himself, and he had a place next to him for the imam to sit. Al-Imam was 9.5 or 9 and a few months years old. They say when the imam entered, the breath was taken from the people. I don't remember the actual term. I know there's a term for it in English, but they were shocked by the beauty of the imam. Salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. They say when he entered, he sat on this chair right next to the Ma'mun, and then Yahya ibn Aktham came. When Yahya ibn Aktham came, he looked at the Ma'mun and he says, Ya Amir, do you allow me to ask a question? Al-Ma'mun was upset by this question. He says, are you asking me or are you asking the Imam? The question is for him. Ask him for permission, not me. Yahya ibn Aktham, he turns to him, and you can tell that he got to learn his place here. He turns to him and he says, جُعِلْتُ فِدَاكَ يَا ابْنَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. May I be sacrificed in your stead. Sorry, the narration doesn't say Ibn Rasulullah. It says, may I be sacrificed in your stead. Would you permit me a question? The Imam looked at him and answered him, and he said, Sal in shit. If you wish to ask, ask. Yahya says to him, what would you say about a mahram who hunted? The question is simple. What would you say about somebody who was wearing the ihram for Hajj, who hunted? That's it. The Imam looked at him, and then he said to him, give me 1 second, I don't want to misquote the Imam. قال Abu Ja'far alayhi salam, Ya Yahya, when he killed, was he fi hil or fi haram? Was he wearing his hil or was he not? Was he wearing his ihram or was he not? Was he aliman kan al-muhrim or jahilan? Did he do it intentionally or unintentionally? Did he kill it on purpose or by accident? Was he a slave or was he a free man? Was he old, meaning that was he baligh or was he not? Was he obligated? Was he baligh? So was he at the age of obligation or was he not? Was it his first time or was he a hunter? The animal that was hunted, was it a bird or not? Was it young or was it small or was it large? Was he insistent upon his action or did he feel guilt for his action? Did this incident take place at night or did it take place during the day? Was this individual during Hajj season or was it just simple Umrah? They say Yahya ibn Aktham, he looked at him and he started saying, Ibn Rasulullah, I apologize. I only have this one question and I only have one answer for this one question.
Wow, mashallah.
Subhanallah, this one question, the Imam, and by the way, the narration is really long. I can't finish it here. The narration itself will take about half an hour to finish and explain. The Imam goes and branches off to more than 30 different branches from this one question. What is the commandment of, or what is the obligation of an individual who hunted during Ihram? Sallallahu alayhi ibn Rasulillah.
You know,
when we did at the Ahlul Bayt, Sayyidina, I think it's almost 45 minutes now, even though we haven't touched up on it. Inshallah, we can finish off the topic of Imam Jawad on another day.
Of course, yeah.
The Imam sallallahu wa sallam alayhi lived those 15 years under constant observation by Al-Ma'mun. Not only that, the daughter of Al-Ma'mun was not a good individual. The daughter of the Ma'mun was an individual who had a lot of course, she was the daughter of the Ma'mun. She was used to a specific lifestyle, a lifestyle that did not besuit a believer. When Al-Mu'tasim came, see the difference between Al-Ma'mun and Al-Mu'tasim. By the way, Al-Mu'tasim is the brother of Al-Ma'mun. Remember in the beginning I told you he's one of the guys, he's the guy that backed out, that bow out, to let them finish their fighting. When he came into play, when he came into power, he wasn't nearly as intelligent as the Ma'mun, nor was he nearly as confident of an individual as Al-Ma'mun. He was a shaken individual. He was an individual that was weak and frail. Out of fear for his throne, and seeing that the world gathered around an Imam al-Jawad, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, especially that the way they describe Imam al-Jawad, that when he entered a room, people, he would take the breath away. When he would speak, people would be forced to quiet. They say that Al-Mu'tasim convinced the daughter al-Fadl, the daughter of Al-Ma'mun, to poison the Imam, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. We're not going to go into the martyr here because it's a day of joyous occasion, not of eulogy or mourning. They could not find any other method than to kill the Imam. The Imam was 25 years old. During those 25 years, and unfortunately we did not have time to elaborate and to go into details into the life of the Imam. But during those 25 years, the Imam was able to awaken the Ummah, was able to establish, whether it be Tawheed, whether it be, keeping in mind that during that time, as we said, during the time of Al-Ma'mun, a lot of knowledge has entered Arabia, a lot of new knowledge. So a lot of mushakkikeen, a lot of doubts about Islam. That's why we see the munadarat, the arguments, the conferences of Imam al-Ridha and al-Jawad alayhi salam, when he would discuss with people. He would lighten the way for people. The Ahlul Bayt, Sayyidina, the Quran says that and we have made imams for us that guide people through our word. The Ahlul Bayt are not out of reach if we try. Let's not wait till we're 30. Let's not spend our first, I'm still young. I always hear this from our brothers and sisters. Oh, I'm still young when I grow up. If we keep on saying this tasawwuf, as we say in Arabic, yes, when I grow up, all of a sudden you'll close your eyes, you'll wake up and you'll see that the past 20, 30 years has passed. One of my greatest regrets, even though a Muslim should not regret, one of my greatest regrets is that I waited so long to come to Najaf, because I fell into that hole and into that rut of, you know what, in a little bit, next week, next month, next year, you know what, I still have to do this, I still have to do that. The fact of the matter is we need to derive our strength from our imams. Our imams, who regardless whether they're 8 years old, or they're 60 years old. When they see that this is something right and should be done, they do it. Whether Imam al-Hussein stands and says, yeah, or as the poet says on his behalf, he says, if the religion of Muhammad is not, or they would not stand unless it be my blood, then let the swords take me. Or whether Imam al-Jawad salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, standing there looking at al-Ma'mun and then looking at Yahya ibn Aktham, with all his status, and he says to him, ask if you wish. We have nothing to hide, we have nothing to fear. We as the saying goes, I'm gonna walk over here, let the Lord may pave my way. The path of the Lord is clear. The problem is we don't quite know it, we don't quite realize it, because we are too restricted with the world around us. My mind is too focused on Instagram, on Facebook, on the newest iPhone, on the newest iPad, on the newest MacBook, on the newest Android, on the newest whatever. Our cup is already full and we're trying to top up on it. We need to remove all of the, I used this example the other day. When you have tea, when you make tea, imagine all the lint, or what do you call it, all the tea leaves, okay? All the tea leaves that you have in the pot, imagine all of those tea leaves are in your cup instead of actual tea. That's what we're doing. We are filling our cup with the tea leaves instead of the tea itself.
So,
Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi tahirin.
no, thank you. Thank you so much, Sheikh, for this great insight, especially the last part. It's something that everyone needs to realize. It's we don't have time. The biggest lie that we have in this world is that we have time. It's not there. And then when, especially learning from the life of Imam Jawad alayhi salam, the one who lived so many feats in the age of 8 to 25, it's just amazing to see that what we're capable of and what we should be doing right now. Alhamdulillah. And, everything that you said just made us realize why his father said that, he's the greatest newborn to be born. He showed the power of the Imams at just 8 years old. He showed the world that, these are the Imams at Ahlul Bayt. So thank you so much, Sheikh, for this wonderful,
I apologize for rambling on and taking more time than I should have. My apologies.
It's a blessing of knowledge, Sheikh. Don't apologize for this. We're all thankful to you.
At your service, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah. So we'd like to end here with a dua, if you may, Sheikh, and that's it. We'll continue in about 2 weeks from now on a Friday night. Jazakallah, Sheikh.
Inshallah. In a dua, we should always remember the Imam of our Zaman. All of the Imams are our Imams. However, each time had their own Imam. But no Imam was chased away the way Imam al-Hujjah Ajallah Farajahu is chased. No Imam, as the narrations say, he does not sleep in one place every night. In fact, during the night, just like the Prophet Muhammad used to sleep when Shu'ab Abi Talib, from every couple of hours, he would move from one spot to another. The Imam of our time, the Imam who, as my brothers and sisters can read in your book, Sayyidina, inshallah, the Imam who is who is waiting for us. We're not the ones that are waiting for him. He is the one that wants us to prepare ourselves. Therefore, we must recite Dua al-Faraj for him, inshallah. And I urge my brothers and sisters, I urge them that at least once a week, I don't want to tell you every day. I know you're busy. I know we all have things to do. At least once a week, do Ziyarat Ashura and gift it to our Imam al-Faraj, Imam al-Zaman, so that may Allah do ta'jeel for his faraj. May Allah hasten his reappearance.
Inshallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم صل على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه الطاهرين في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم وهب لنا رأفته ورحمته ودعاءه وخيره واجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه في زمرة أوليائه بحق محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين، وصلى الله على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد.